Imagine yourself standing under a perfectly clear night sky, far away from the noise and lights of cities. Above you stretches a glowing band of starlight, delicate yet immense, like a silver river flowing across the darkness. This is the Milky Way, our home galaxy, and tonight we will drift along its quiet current. You don't need to move, or even to think too much. Just let your breath slow down, let your shoulders loosen, and allow your mind to wander with me into this gentle sea of stars. The Milky Way has been called a river of stars since ancient times. Cultures across the world saw it as a path of light, a bridge for souls, or even a river of milk spilled across the heavens. The name we use today comes from Latin Via Lactea, the Milky Road. From our planet's surface, it looks like a narrow, glowing band. But what you see is only the faint inner edge of something far vaster than the eye can hold. In truth, the Milky Way is a colossal spiral galaxy home to hundreds of billions of stars. Imagine billions of tiny suns, each with its own orbit drifting together in an immense swirl. Some shine blue and young, burning hot and fast. Others glow orange or red, ancient and patient, their light softened by age. Together they weave the shimmering fabric that stretches from horizon to horizon. From Earth we see the galaxy edge on. That is why it appears as a band instead of a circle. Picture yourself inside a great forest. If you look up, you see only the tall trees crowding around you, not the whole shape of the forest. In the same way we look out from within our galactic home, seeing only a ribbon of stars, not the full spiral that encircles us. Astronomers tell us that the Milky Way is more than 1,000,000 light-years across. That means, if you could travel at the speed of light, the fastest speed possible, it would still take 100,000 years just to cross from one side to the other. And we, tucked safely in one of its spiral arms, are like tiny passengers riding this vast wheel of stars. But you don't need to hold on to numbers or distances right now. Let them wash over you softly like waves lapping against the shore. Think instead of the feeling of being surrounded not by walls, but by endless light. You, me, and everyone we know are drifting inside a galaxy that turns slowly in the dark, carrying us along like a boat in a river. There is something deeply soothing about this thought that the galaxy flows whether or not we notice. Stars rise and set, the night turns to day, and still the Milky Way moves on. We are passengers in a calm, steady current, wrapped in gravity's quiet embrace. As you picture this river of stars, imagine also the spaces between them. For every star you see, there are millions you cannot. Dust clouds weave dark lanes through the starlight, hiding entire regions of the galaxy. To the eye they appear as shadows, but they are also nurseries, places where new stars are being born. Even in darkness, creation continues. Some say the Milky Way is like a story written in light. Each star, a word, each cluster a sentence, and together they form a long tale stretching back more than 13 billion years. And tonight, you are part of that story, reading it not with your eyes alone, but with your imagination. So breathe gently, and let this vision settle, a river of starlight flowing endlessly above you, a home so vast, it cannot be seen all at once, and yet gentle enough to carry you towards sleep. When you look up at the Milky Way in the night sky, it feels like you are seeing the galaxy itself stretched like a shimmering river. But the truth is, what we see is only the smallest hint of its full shape. From Earth's perspective, we are trapped inside the very disk of our galaxy. It is as if you were standing in the middle of a forest, surrounded by trunks, leaves, and branches. You could look in every direction, but you would never truly see the forest's form. The Milky Way's spiral pattern remains hidden from us, veiled by dust distance and our position deep within. Scientists know that the Milky Way is a barred spiral galaxy. That means it has broad curving arms of stars, wrapped around a central bar-shaped core. Imagine a pinwheel made of light spinning silently in the dark. But unlike a neat toy wheel, our galaxy's arms break, and bend in ways that are not perfectly symmetrical. From above, the structure would look like a glowing whirlpool of suns, gas, and dust. But because we live inside it, we see only fragments, patches, and hints of this design. How then do astronomers know the shape at all? They cannot simply take a picture from above. Instead, they piece it together, like detectives solving a puzzle. By measuring the distances to stars, by tracing the paths of hydrogen gas clouds, and by mapping the motions of clusters, scientists reconstruct a portrait of our galaxy's form. One of the most important tools in this effort has been the Gaia mission, a spacecraft launched by the European Space Agency. Gaia measures the positions and motions of more than 2 billion stars with exquisite accuracy. Each star's movement becomes a clue, and together these clues form the outlines of the Milky Way's hidden skeleton. For a long time, astronomers believed the Milky Way had 4 major spiral arms, but recent discoveries suggest it may be more complicated. Some arms appear to split, forming smaller branches. Others fade out into streams of stars, instead of remaining clear and distinct. It may be that the galaxy is not a perfect pinwheel at all, but rather a living swirl shaped by collisions by the pull of dark matter and by the long history of mergers with smaller galaxies. What we call the arms are really density waves, regions where stars, dust and gas bunch up more thickly, forming glowing lanes of light. Just as cars slow down and bunch together in a traffic jam, stars and gas gather in these spiral arms, shining brighter than the spaces between. Our own solar system lies in a small branch called the Orion Spur. It is not one of the grand arms, but a quiet lane between larger highways of starlight. From here, we peer outward and see only pieces of the larger structure. Imagine standing on a winding road in the countryside, able to see the bends ahead, but not the whole map. That is how we experience the Milky Way's arms, partial glimpses of something vaster than we can hold in a single view. The hidden shape of the galaxy is also obscured by interstellar dust. Dust may sound small and fragile, but on galactic scales, it stretches across thousands of light years, forming dark rivers that block starlight. These dust lanes create the mottled patterns you notice in the Milky Way's band, places where stars seem to disappear into shadow. To the naked eye, it looks like emptiness, but in truth these regions are filled with clouds rich in hydrogen and molecules, the raw material from which new stars are born. The dust hides, but it also nourishes. Behind the veil, nurseries of starlight prepare the next generation of suns. Sometimes, astronomers compare our situation to trying to map a city while never leaving one street. You can walk up and down that street, count the houses, measure the shadows, and listen to the traffic. From those clues, you can guess the larger design avenues, highways, neighborhoods stretching beyond your sight. In much the same way, scientists study the stars nearest to us, measure their speeds and compositions, and then build models of what the larger Milky Way must look like. It is detective work on the grandest scale, and the picture is still unfinished. Even the question of how many arms the Milky Way has is debated. Some evidence suggests 4. Other studies suggest only 2 dominant ones. Still, others argue for a more fragmented and layered spiral, broken into segments rather than neat continuous curves. The truth is that galaxies are not static. Their shapes evolve over billions of years, sculpted by gravity collisions and the slow drift of stars. The Milky Way is no exception. What we imagine as a tidy spiral may instead be a shifting, rippling form, beautiful, precisely because it resists simple definition. And in this hidden shape lies a quiet reminder. We cannot see the galaxy we live in, not directly. We are bound inside it, surrounded by light, yet unable to step outside for a true view. There is something humbling in this. The very home that carries us across the cosmos is partly a mystery. We know its arms by inference, its core by echoes, its halo by faint traces. Like a traveler who only sees the shoreline but dreams of the whole sea, we are left to imagine the galaxy's full grandeur. So tonight, as you close your eyes, you can picture yourself not just beneath the Milky Way but within it. A tiny part of a spiral. You cannot see a curve of starlight, hidden by distance and dust. And yet, even without seeing the whole, you belong to it. Your breath, your body, your very atoms are woven into this unseen design. The galaxy's shape may remain hidden, but your place within it is certain. You are drifting in its arms, carried on paths that will last long after memory, long after tomorrow, long after you have fallen asleep. Close your eyes and picture a single star. Perhaps you imagine our sun round and golden, its light steady and warm. Now multiply that vision, not by hundreds, not by thousands, but by hundreds of billions. That is the Milky Way, a gathering of stars so immense that the human mind can only approach it through imagination. Our galaxy is home to between 100 and 400 billion stars. The number is so large it hardly means anything to us in daily life. We count by ones, tens, maybe thousands. Billions drift beyond our ordinary sense of scale. Yet here within this spiral home, billions of suns move together in an enormous dance, each carrying its own history, its own planets, its own light. Some stars are giants burning with fierce blue heat and living brief, brilliant lives. Others are dwarfs, dim red lanterns that shine for trillions of years, their patience outlasting galaxies themselves. In between are stars like our sun, ordinary in brightness, yet extraordinary in their ability to nurture life on planets nearby. Each star is a story, and together they form a library written in light. The stars are not evenly spread. Some gather into clusters, families bound together by gravity. These clusters glitter like jewels scattered on the velvet of the sky. Others stand alone, solitary travelers, drifting through the galactic disk. Still others wander in the halo, far above and below the central plane. Their light faint their presence, quiet but enduring. Think of how many possibilities are contained in those billions. Around many stars, planets circle, some small and rocky, some vast and gaseous. Astronomers believe that almost every star has at least one planet. That means hundreds of billions of worlds swirl in the Milky Way. Some may be sterile and silent, frozen in eternal night. Others may be warm and wet, their surfaces touched by oceans or clouds. A few perhaps may cradle life, just as our sun does here on Earth. In this way, the billions of stars are not just points of light, they are seeds of possibility. Each one may host stories, untold futures, unwritten. It is as though the galaxy were a great orchard, each tree bearing fruit, and we, on our small planet, are tasting just one. The rest remain out there waiting, shining. When you gaze into the night sky, you see only a fraction of these stars. Perhaps a few thousand are visible to the naked eye, under perfect conditions. A few thousand compared to billions. The difference is like looking at a single grain of sand and knowing that an entire desert stretches beyond your vision. What you see is real, but it is only the surface of something unimaginably vast. Astronomers use telescopes to peer deeper, capturing faint light from stars so far away it has traveled for thousands of years. Some of the light reaching us tonight may have begun its journey when civilizations were just rising on Earth, or even long before humans existed at all. To look at the stars is to look into the past, a past written across billions of suns. And yet, despite the scale, there is harmony. Gravity binds these stars together, weaving them into the fabric of the Milky Way. Each star orbits the center, not in perfect circles, but in vast, graceful paths. Some move swiftly closer to the heart. Others drift slowly near the edges. but together they form a balanced system like dancers in a cosmic waltz. The music is silent, the rhythm is slow, but the dance endures. Among the billions, some stars are older than the galaxy itself. They formed in small primitive galaxies that later merged into the Milky Way. Their light is poor in heavy elements, showing that they were born close to the dawn of the universe. They are survivors, carrying the memory of times before spirals, before order. Among billions of companions, they shine like ancient storytellers, their glow a whisper of the early cosmos. Other stars are newborn, bursting into life from collapsing clouds of gas. These infant suns burn hot and blue, their light dazzling and energetic. Around them, planetary disks still swirl dust, coalescing into future worlds. Among billions, new beginnings are happening even now, quietly in hidden regions of the galaxy. This endless cycle, stars born, stars living, stars dying, is the heartbeat of the Milky Way. Billions of lives, billions of journeys, all unfolding at once. Some stars will explode in supernovae, scattering heavy elements like iron, gold, and oxygen into space. Others will fade quietly into white dwarfs, dim embers that glow for eons. Every star's story contributes to the whole, and we too are part of it. The iron in your blood, the calcium in your bones, the oxygen you breathe, all of it was forged in stars. You are part of the billions, a child of starlight. As you drift towards sleep, hold this picture gently in your mind. Billions of suns, sharing one galaxy, moving together, like waves in an endless sea. You are not alone in the dark. You are surrounded by light, by countless companions glowing quietly in every direction. Though they may be distant, their presence is constant, their stories woven into the same spiral that carries you tonight. At the very center of our galaxy, hidden behind curtains of dust and gas, rests a giant unlike any other. It is not a star, though it pulls stars into frantic orbits. It is not visible to our eyes, though its presence shapes the entire Milky Way. This is Sagittarius A, times the supermassive black hole at the heart of our galaxy, a quiet, central giant. When most people hear the words black hole, they imagine destruction. They picture matter falling inward, light, vanishing, and endless hunger. Yet the giant at our galaxy's core is not raging. It sits quietly, a massive anchor, more than 4 million times the mass of our Sunday. Despite its weight, it occupies a space smaller than the orbit of Mercury. Imagine the Sun, then multiply its mass millions of times, compressing it into a tiny region where gravity is so strong that nothing, not even light, can escape. That is Sagittarius A. Astronomers know it is there because of the way stars near the center move. Over years of careful observation, telescopes have watched stars whip around an invisible point. Some complete loops in only a few decades, moving at thousands of kilometers per second. The only explanation is an object of unimaginable mass pulling them into orbit. Even though we cannot see the black hole directly, the stars trace its presence like dancers circling an unseen partner. From time to time, gas and dust fall into the black hole. As this material spirals inward, it heats to millions of degrees, releasing flares of X-rays and radio waves. These outbursts are brief compared to cosmic time, like sparks in the darkness. For the most part, though, Sagittarius A times is quiet. It does not consume hungrily. Instead, it waits, massive and still, holding the galaxy together with its silent gravity. Long ago, it may not have been so calm. Evidence suggests that Sagittarius A times once flared brightly, perhaps shining as a quasar. Quasars are among the most luminous objects in the universe, powered by black holes devouring matter at furious rates. If our galaxy's core once burned like this, the Milky Way would have glowed with a central beacon visible across the cosmos. Today, those days are gone. What remains is the memory of power hidden now beneath calm shadows. It can be comforting to think of the black hole as a conductor. The Milky Way is a vast orchestra of billions of stars, each moving on its own path. But at the center, the conductor stands silent, setting the rhythm. Sagittarius A times is that silent conductor. It does not play notes or shine with light, but its gravity sets the tempo for the galaxy's inner regions, guiding the motion of stars and gas. Without it, the heart of the Milky Way would be less ordered, less bound. Some stars come dangerously close to this giant. Their paths bring them near enough that their orbits bend sharply like comets swinging past the sunday. These encounters provide astronomers with natural experiments in extreme physics. Watching these stars helps confirm Einstein's theory of general relativity, showing how space and time warp in the presence of immense gravity. Every orbit is a lesson, a cosmic classroom, where light itself bends to the rules of the black hole. For all its power, the black hole does not threaten us. We are safely distant about 2,6,000 light-years away. At that distance, Sagittarius A times is simply an anchor, a quiet mass, holding the galaxy steady. From our place in a small spiral arm, we feel its influence only indirectly, like the steady pull of Earth's gravity, that you do not notice until you try to leap away. Its presence is background, constant, reliable. There is also beauty in knowing that such extremes can exist in peace. A black hole of millions of solar masses could be terrifying, yet here it rests, quiet, wrapped in dust, guiding the galaxy without drama. Sometimes the universe shows us that strength does not always mean noise or violence. Sometimes strength is calm, steady, and invisible, holding everything together without asking for notice. As you drift deeper into rest, let this image settle in your mind, a giant heart at the center of the Milky Way, beating not with sound or light, but with gravity. Stars whirl around it, gas drifts inward, and time itself bends. Yet from our quiet corner, we feel only its embrace, steady and sure. The galaxy's core is not a place of chaos, but of deep silence, a silence that carries the weight of millions of suns. In that silence there is room for sleep. Just as Sagittarius A times holds the Milky Way together, let its steady pull to hold your thoughts tonight. You are safe far from its reach, yet carried by its gravity all the same. Rest in that knowledge. Rest in the quiet strength of a giant that has watched over our galaxy for billions of years and will continue to do so long after we are gone. When you look at the Milky Way on a clear night, you may notice patches where the stars seem to vanish. Dark lanes cut across the glowing river, creating shadows that hide the light behind them. To the naked eye, these regions might look like emptiness, like gaps in the galaxy's beauty, but they are not empty at all. In truth, these dark clouds are among the most fertile places in the cosmos. They are star nurseries, the hidden cradles where new suns are quietly born. These clouds are made mostly of hydrogen, the simplest and most abundant element in the universe. Mixed with the gas are tiny grains of cosmic dust fragments of carbon silicates and ice. Together they weave thick curtains that block visible light. From Earth they appear as black patches against the brighter backdrop of the Milky Way. But if you could look with infrared eyes, the picture would change. Behind the veil, entire nurseries glow softly, with warmth lit by the faint stirrings of stars, not yet visible to us. Inside these clouds, gravity begins its patient work. At first, the gas drifts quietly cold, and still only a few degrees above absolute zero. Then, in some regions, slight ripples appear triggered perhaps by a passing shock wave from a nearby supernova, or by the gentle tug of galactic tides. These ripples grow denser, pulling in more gas, until pockets of matter collapse under their own weight. In these collapsing knots, heat builds and a new story begins. A star is born when fusion ignites in its heart. As the collapsing gas grows hotter and denser, pressure forces hydrogen atoms to combine, releasing light and energy. The moment this process begins, a newborn star shines. At first, its light is hidden within the cloud, caught by dust, and re-emitted in longer wavelengths. But gradually, as the young star grows stronger, it pushes away the shroud of gas, carving a glowing bubble around itself. To our telescopes, these bubbles shine in radiant blues and silvers, the signatures of stellar nurseries alive with creation. Consider the Orion Nebula, one of the closest star-forming regions to Earth. To the eye, it is a faint blur in Orion's sword. But through a telescope it reveals vast clouds lit by newborn stars, gas glowing with ultraviolet light. In the heart of that nebula, thousands of new suns are being born. Some are small red dwarfs that will live quietly for trillions of years. Others are massive blue giants, destined to explode in violent supernovae after only a few million years. From the same cloud, two very different futures emerge: endurance and brilliance. These nurseries are not only the birthplace of stars, but also of planets. Around young stars, disks of dust and gas swirl, flattening into rings. Within these rings, particles collide and stick slowly, building worlds. In time, rocky planets, gas, giants, moons and comets form, creating entire solar systems. Our own sun was once surrounded by such a disk. From it, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, and all the other planets of our system emerged. In this way, the dark clouds of the galaxy are not empty at all, but the very wombs of stars and worlds. There is something humbling about knowing that every point of light you see in the night sky was once hidden inside a nursery. Each star, no matter how old or how distant, began in the same quiet process: gas collapsing, fusion igniting light, breaking free. The Milky Way holds billions of such stories, billions of cradles tucked away in its dark lanes. And even now, the process continues. Stars are being born at this very moment, in silence, in places we cannot see with our eyes. Star nurseries remind us that darkness is not always absence. Sometimes, what looks like nothing is simply a veil covering beginnings too delicate for the open sky. It is as if the galaxy itself knows to shield its youngest children, letting them grow in safety until they are ready to shine. In this way, the dark clouds are acts of kindness spaces, where the universe hides its tender work. Astronomers use many tools to study these hidden regions. Infrared telescopes can peer through dust, revealing glowing knots of young stars. Radio telescopes trace cold hydrogen gas, mapping the structure of giant clouds. Even X-ray observatories sometimes detect the energetic flares of newborn stars as they flicker into life. Each wavelength shows a different layer of the story, helping us piece together the full picture of how stars are born. The scale of these nurseries is staggering. Some clouds stretch for hundreds of light years, containing enough material to form tens of thousands of stars. Others are smaller, cradling only a handful. In all cases, the process is slow and gentle by human standards. A star may take millions of years to emerge from its cocoon. Yet in the patient language of the cosmos, this is but a moment, a heartbeat in galactic time. As you imagine these nurseries tonight, let the picture soothe you. Picture vast clouds drifting through space, quiet and dark, their depths glowing softly with hidden light. Picture stars forming like tiny embers in the ashes, each one destined to shine for billions of years. Picture planets, coalescing rings, flattening futures being written in silence. These are not violent beginnings, but gentle ones, unfolding slowly like the first breath of a newborn. And as you drift towards sleep, remember this: you too are part of this story. The atoms in your body were once forged in older stars, scattered and gathered again. Long ago, before Earth existed, the matter that would become you drifted in one of these nurseries waiting to be shaped. You are not separate from the galaxy's dark clouds. You are their child, just as every star island. Let that thought carry you now gently into rest. The Milky Way's nurseries continue their quiet work, weaving new light in the dark, and you, safe on your small planet, are rocked to sleep by the same gravity, the same rhythm, the same patient hand of creation. Imagine looking into the night sky and realizing that some of the stars you see are older than the galaxy itself. It sounds impossible, yet it is true. Scattered among the billions of suns in the Milky Way are ancient stars, survivors from an earlier age of the universe, still glowing softly after more than 13 billion years. They are like elders, sitting quietly in the crowd. Their light, a memory of a time when the cosmos was still learning how to become what it is today. When the universe was young, only hydrogen and helium existed in abundance. Heavier elements like carbon, oxygen, and iron had not yet been created. The very first stars were forged from this pure, simple gas. They were massive and short-lived, burning brightly, and then exploding in spectacular deaths. But a few smaller, humbler stars formed as well, stars with such low mass that they could endure for billions upon billions of years. It is these that we can still see today, faint red glimmers that began shining not long after the Big Bang. Astronomers call them metal-poor stars, though in astronomy the word metal means any element heavier than helium. Compared to our Sun, which is rich in carbon, oxygen, and many other elements, these ancient stars contain almost none. Their light carries the fingerprint of a universe still new, before generations of stars had enriched it with heavier materials. To study them is to hold a piece of cosmic history, like reading the earliest pages of a very old book. Some of these elders wander in the Milky Way's halo, far above and below the main disk. Their orbits are long and tilted, suggesting that they may have originated in smaller galaxies that later merged with our own. In a way, they are immigrants adopted into the Milky Way's family billions of years ago. Others drift within the thick disk itself, faint and overlooked, but still present, still shining. Their persistence is humbling stars, born before the Milky Way fully formed, now sharing space with suns that are just beginning their journey. Think of what these ancient stars have witnessed. When they were born, galaxies were just gathering from clouds of dark matter and gas. The Milky Way did not yet exist. The Earth, the Sun, even our solar system were still far in the future. And yet these stars burned quietly on surviving cosmic collisions, supernova storms, and the long sweep of galactic evolution. They are timekeepers, their light steady, as civilizations rise and fall on planets far below. Their colors are often soft red or orange, not the brilliant blue of young giants. They burn fuel slowly, their lives stretched across unimaginable spans of time. If the galaxy were a grand theater, these stars would be the elders in the balcony, watching patiently as the stage changes again and again. Their endurance is not loud or dramatic. It is quiet, steady, and deeply reassuring. By studying these stars, astronomers learn about the early universe. Each one carries a chemical signature in its spectrum, a pattern of absorption lines that reveals what it is made of. Those signatures tell us about conditions more than 13 billion years ago. In this way, the stars become teachers. They show us how galaxies first came together, how the first heavy elements were spread, how light emerged from darkness. They are fossils of fire, preserved not in stone, but in starlight. There is one star in particular known as HD, 140283, sometimes called the Methuselah star. It lies only 200 light-years from Earth, remarkably close on galactic scales. Analysis suggests it is more than 13 billion years old, nearly as ancient as the universe itself. It shines faintly in the constellation Libra, an unassuming point of light, yet it holds within it the memory of the cosmos's earliest days. Looking at it is like gazing across a gulf of time almost too vast to comprehend. And yet, despite their age, these stars remind us of something comforting. Endurance is possible. They have survived for eons, not because they are powerful giants, but because they are small and careful with their fuel. They sip hydrogen instead of consuming it in a blaze. They teach us that sometimes the longest journeys are made not by those who rush, but by those who move slowly, steadily, with patience. As you rest tonight, imagine these ancient lights scattered across the Milky Way. Imagine them glowing softly in the halo high above the galactic plane. Imagine them drifting quietly, their paths tilted, their stories older than the spiral itself. And think of this: the atoms in your body, forged in later generations of stars, carry within them the legacy of those first fires. You are connected not only to the bright young suns, but also to the ancient ones still shining. Let their endurance soothe you. Let their quiet patience become your own. For if stars can last for billions of years, holding their light through ages of change, then surely you can rest tonight, held gently in the same universe that has carried them since the beginning. When most people imagine the Milky Way, they think of its bright spiral arms or its glowing center hidden in dust. But beyond the visible parts lies something far larger, far stranger, and almost entirely invisible. Surrounding the galaxy, like a vast cocoon, is the galactic halo, a ghostly sphere of stars, clusters, and dark matter that stretches far beyond the light we can see. The halo is not bright. If you look into the night sky, you cannot trace its edges. It does not form a glowing ring or an obvious shell. Instead, it is diffuse, almost transparent, made of ancient stars, scattered thinly across enormous distances. Imagine a faint mist surrounding a lantern. The lantern is the galaxy's disk, radiant with billions of stars. The mist is the halo, quiet and nearly unseen, but just as real. Some of the oldest stars in the universe live here, drifting alone in wide, slow orbits. They are relics from a time before the Milky Way had fully taken shape, survivors from smaller galaxies that merged into ours long ago. Their light is faint, but their presence is important. They tell us that the halo is not empty. It is a memory of the galaxy's long history of collisions and growth. Also scattered through the halo are globular clusters, dense spheres of stars bound tightly together. Each cluster may contain hundreds of thousands of suns, shining like a jewel in the dark. More than 150 of these clusters orbit within the Milky Way's halo, some older than 12 billion years. They are among the most ancient structures in the galaxy, like lanterns hung high above the disk, glowing with quiet endurance. But the halo is more than stars. Most of its mass is something we cannot see at all: dark matter. Astronomers discovered its presence when they measured how fast stars move in the galaxy. By normal logic, the outer stars should orbit slowly, just as planets far from the Sun move sluggishly compared to those nearby. Instead, the outer stars move almost as quickly as those near the center. The only explanation is that a huge amount of unseen mass surrounds the galaxy, providing the gravity to hold it together. This invisible mass outweighs all the stars, gas, and dust many times over. Without it, the Milky Way would fly apart. Think of the halo, then, as a skeleton made of shadows. You cannot see it, but it gives shape and strength to the galaxy. It extends far beyond the spiral arms, perhaps 3,000,000 light years, across, dwarfing the luminous disk. If the Milky Way were a city, the disk would be the crowded downtown full of lights and movement. The halo would be the quiet countryside, stretching outward in all directions, vast and mostly dark, yet still part of the same whole. Studying the halo is difficult. Because it is so faint, astronomers rely on careful measurements of star motions. the chemical fingerprints of ancient suns, and the subtle pull of gravity on visible matter. Space missions like Gaia help by mapping stars at the edges of the galaxy, revealing faint streams of light that curve across the sky. These streams are the remains of smaller galaxies pulled apart by the Milky Way's gravity, their stars now stretched into long arcs. The halo preserves these relics like fossils, quiet evidence of the galaxy's violent past. Some astronomers compare the halo to an archive. Each star, each cluster, each tidal stream is like a page in a history book. Together they tell the story of how the Milky Way grew not in isolation, but by consuming smaller galaxies over billions of years. Our home is not a single creation, but a tapestry stitched from countless smaller pieces. The halo is where you can see the stitches most clearly. There is a strange comfort in the halo's invisibility. It reminds us that not everything important must be obvious. The brightest lights are not always the strongest forces. The disk glows brilliantly, but it is the dark halo that holds it all in place. In your own life too, there may be quiet forces that support you, without being seen kindnesses, unspoken memories, that guide you the steady rhythm of your own breath as you lie here tonight. Imagine yourself floating beyond the disk out into the halo. At first, the stars grow sparse, the light dimmer. You drift past clusters of ancient suns, glowing softly like golden embers. You move further still, until even those lights are thin and far apart. Around you stretches mostly darkness, yet you feel the galaxy's gravity still holding you, still binding you to home. This is the halo emptiness that is not empty silence that still carries weight. And as you picture this invisible halo, let it cradle you as well. You too are surrounded by quiet forces, by gravity, by time, by the atoms that once belonged to ancient stars. Even in darkness there is structure. Even in silence there is strength. Let the thought settle gently. As you drift deeper into rest, the Milky Way is wrapped in an invisible embrace, and you are safe within it. Though the Milky Way feels like an immense and solitary home, we are not alone in the cosmos. Surrounding our galaxy are many smaller companions, dwarf galaxies that drift nearby, circling like gentle neighbors across the sky. They are not as vast or as luminous as the Milky Way, but together they form a family bound by gravity and time. The most famous of these neighbors are the Large and Small Magellanic Clouds. Visible from the southern hemisphere, they appear as faint smudges of light against the night sky, like detached pieces of the Milky Way itself. For centuries, sailors used them as guides across the oceans, never knowing they were galaxies in their own right. The Large Magellanic Cloud contains billions of stars glowing in clusters and nebulae. The Small Magellanic Cloud, though dimmer, still carries its own quiet treasures. Both are bound to the Milky Way, slowly orbiting and interacting with its gravity. Other companions are less obvious. The Sagittarius dwarf galaxy, for example, is currently being torn apart by the Milky Way's pull. Its stars are stretched into long streams that wrap around our galaxy, creating arcs of light barely visible except through careful measurement. These streams remind us that the Milky Way is not only a home, but also a host, gathering smaller neighbors into itself over billions of years. There are more than 50 such dwarf galaxies in our local group, most faint and hidden, discovered only with powerful telescopes. Some hover just beyond the edges of the Milky Way's halo, moving like quiet satellites. Others plunge through the disk, leaving behind trails of stars as they pass. Each one adds to the story of our galaxy's growth, feeding it with fresh stars and gas. They are neighbors now, but in time, many will become part of the Milky Way itself. Think of these galaxies as villages around a great city. The Milky Way is the sprawling metropolis full of light and energy. The dwarf galaxies are smaller communities, quieter, but no less real, living in its shadow, contributing to its story. Some may merge fully like villages absorbed by a growing city. Others may circle for eons, independent yet tethered by invisible bonds. The gravitational pull of the Milky Way shapes their paths. Just as the Moon orbits Earth and Earth orbits the Sun, these galaxies orbit us. But their paths are not neat circles. They stretch and wobble, influenced by other galaxies nearby. Sometimes they come close, stirring the edges of the Milky Way's disk. Other times, they swing far out, only to return again millions of years later. The sky above us carries their signatures, faint ripples in the stars, subtle warps in the galactic plane. Astronomers believe that the Milky Way has grown large partly by consuming these smaller neighbors. Over billions of years, it has merged with many dwarfs, pulling them apart and absorbing their stars. The evidence lies in the stellar streams traced across the sky, the chemical fingerprints of stars that do not quite belong. Each absorbed galaxy leaves behind clues threads woven into the larger tapestry. The Milky Way is not pristine. It is a mosaic stitched from countless smaller worlds. Yet these neighbors also bring beauty. In the large Magellanic Cloud lies the Tarantula Nebula, one of the most active star-forming regions in the nearby universe. Here, clusters of massive young stars blaze with blue-white light, illuminating clouds of gas in delicate tendrils. To look at it through a telescope is to glimpse creation itself, a cosmic nursery, glowing in a companion galaxy just next door. The Milky Way is vast, but the wonders of its neighbors remind us that beauty extends beyond its borders. Imagine then that you are drifting upward into the halo, looking back at the Milky Way. Around its glowing disk, faint companions sparkle. Some are irregular lopsided clouds of stars. Others are more spherical, like tiny globes of light. They orbit slowly, quietly, their motions measured not in years, but in millions of years. From your resting place, you watch them circle a silent ballet of galaxies across the sky. There is something comforting in knowing we are not alone. Just as Earth has its moon, and the Sun is one among many stars, the Milky Way is part of a family. Its neighbors whisper of connection, of community, even in the vast emptiness of space. To live in a galaxy is to live in a neighborhood, one where distances are enormous, but the bonds of gravity keep everyone linked. As you breathe softly, let yourself imagine this neighborhood. Picture the Milky Way as your home, and the dwarf galaxies as friendly lights at the edge of town. They may be distant, faint and quiet, but they belong to the same story. You here on Earth are part of that story too, a resident of a galaxy with neighbors across the sky. And tonight, as you drift into sleep, let that thought rest gently in your mind. You are not isolated in the dark. You are surrounded by companions, some near, some far, all connected by the same invisible threads. The Milky Way is your home, but it is not alone. Neither are you. Far across the night sky beyond the stars of our own Milky Way lies a faint blur of light. On a clear night away from city lamps, you can see it with your naked eye, a small misty patch in the constellation of Andromeda. It doesn't look like much, just a ghostly smudge. But that blur is an entire galaxy, as grand and sprawling as our own. It is the Andromeda Galaxy, our nearest great neighbor in the cosmos, and it is slowly, silently moving toward us. Andromeda is about 5 million light-years away. That means the faint light you see tonight began its journey long before humans existed. When that light left, Andromeda Earth's early ancestors had not yet walked upright. Civilizations, languages, even our species were still far in the future. And yet the photons have traveled all that way, uninterrupted, to rest gently on your eyes tonight. In seeing Andromeda, you are looking not only across distance, but across deep time. It is a spiral galaxy like our own, perhaps a bit larger, with hundreds of billions of stars. Through telescopes, its structure reveals sweeping arms, clusters, and a bright central bulge. It is alive with activity, stars forming clusters, orbiting and clouds of dust drifting like rivers. In many ways, it is a mirror of the Milky Way, a sibling across the void, and like siblings, we are destined to meet, for Andromeda is not drifting away. It is approaching, drawn by the same gravity that holds stars in orbit and binds galaxies into groups. At a speed of about 110 kilometers per second, Andromeda edges closer every day. The pace is gentle, nothing we can feel but steady. Astronomers tell us that in about 4.5 billion years, the Milky Way and Andromeda will collide. The word collision suggests chaos, but the truth is more graceful. Stars are so far apart that they will almost never strike one another directly. Instead, the galaxies will pass through their shapes, distorted their arms, stretched into long tidal tails. Over time, they will fall together again, swirling and merging into a single larger galaxy. Some call it Milkomeda, a new home formed from the blending of two giants. Imagine the view from Earth when this begins. The Andromeda Galaxy will grow larger in the night sky, spreading its arms wider and wider until it dominates the heavens. For billions of years, our descendants, if they are still here, may watch as two galaxies draw together, arcs of stars glowing like rivers of light across the firmament. The sky will not end. It will bloom. The approach of Andromeda is not a threat, but a promise. It reminds us that galaxies are not eternal in their current forms. They change, evolve, and become something new. The Milky Way itself was built from past mergers, and in the far future it will merge again. Just as stars are born live and die, so galaxies grow through encounters. The Andromeda Approach is simply the next chapter in a story billions of years old. Astronomers study this future not with fear, but with curiosity. By simulating the motions of stars and the effects of gravity, they can model how the Milky Way and Andromeda will dance together. The results are striking: spirals stretched into threads, cores spiraling closer, and eventually a new elliptical galaxy glowing brighter than either one alone. It will be a transformation, not an end. There is something deeply soothing in this. The future may hold vast changes, but they unfold on scales so large that they are almost timeless to us. 4.5 billion years is longer than Earth itself has existed. By then, our sun will be nearing the end of its life, expanding into a red giant. Whatever humanity becomes, or whatever life may arise, the sky will be different, but the galaxy will carry on. Tonight, as you rest, you can hold this vision gently in your mind: two grand spirals drifting closer across the dark, drawn by an invisible bond. Their meeting is slow, elegant, and inevitable. You do not need to hurry. The universe moves at its own pace. All you need to do is breathe and let the thought calm you. For in the Andromeda Approach, there is a lesson: even vast distances can be bridged. Even galaxies find companions across the emptiness, and in that truth lies comfort. You too are not alone. You are part of a galaxy with a neighbor, and together they are destined to embrace, creating something new and beautiful. So let your thoughts drift like those galaxies, slowly approaching, slowly merging, until all becomes one quiet, radiant whole. The night sky holds this promise, and tonight it can hold you as well. It is difficult for the human mind to grasp the true size of the Milky Way. When we step outside and see the arc of stars stretching across the night sky, it feels immense. Yet what we see is only a whisper of the whole, a faint stripe of light compared to the vastness it represents. To imagine the scale of our galaxy is to step into numbers that defy intuition, numbers so large they become less about mathematics and more about awe. The Milky Way is about 1,000,000 light-years across. A light-year is the distance light travels in a single year, about 9.5 trillion kilometers. Multiply that by 1,000,000, and you begin to glimpse the width of our home. If you could travel at the speed of light, the fastest speed in the universe, it would still take 100,000 years to move from one side of the galaxy to the other. For perspective, all of recorded human history spans only a few thousand years. A single journey across the Milky Way would outlast every civilization we have ever known. Our Sun is not at the center, but about 26,000 light-years away, tucked into a quiet arm called the Orion Spur. Even here, far from the crowded core, we are surrounded by hundreds of billions of stars. Imagine a city that stretches so wide you could never walk from one end to the other, no matter how long you lived. That is our galaxy, a city of stars beyond any scale we can truly hold in our minds. The thickness of the Milky Way adds another layer of wonder. The central bulge swells with stars and gas, spanning thousands of light-years in height. Surrounding the disk is the faint halo, extending even farther, perhaps 3,000,000 light-years across. Though we cannot see its edges directly, we know it is there by the motions of stars and clusters. The Milky Way is not a flat picture, but a three-dimensional structure, layered and immense, like a cosmic ocean, whose depth is as unfathomable as its width. Astronomers sometimes compare the galaxy to a great wheel. If the Milky Way were shrunk down so that the disk was the size of North America, our solar system would be no larger than a single grain of sand resting in the middle of Kansas. Every star you see in the night sky would be another grain scattered across this vast plain, and still that model would leave out much of the halo which extends far beyond the visible arms. The scale humbles us, reminding us that our place is both tiny and wondrous. Even within such immensity, stars are not evenly spaced. Near the core they crowd together dense and radiant, creating a glow that hides behind thick curtains of dust. Out here in the suburbs of the galaxy, stars are more widely spread. Yet even so, the nearest stellar neighbor to our Sun, Proxima Centauri, is just over 4 light-years away, a distance that would take tens of thousands of years to cross with today's technology. Imagine living in a neighborhood where your nearest neighbor's house was 4 years away if you traveled at light speed. That is the kind of scale the galaxy holds. When we talk about the size of the Milky Way, we are really talking about the scale of time as well. The Sun orbits the galactic center once every 225 million years. That means, in all its 4.6 billion years of life, our Sun has circled the galaxy only about 20 times. Dinosaurs walked the Earth when the solar system was in a different part of this vast orbit. Civilizations rise and fall in the blink of a galactic eye. Time and size here are inseparable, each reminding us of the other's immensity. It is easy to feel small in the face of such magnitude, but there is also comfort in it. The galaxy is vast enough to carry countless stories, countless worlds, countless futures. It is a container of possibility wide enough to hold both the familiar light of our Sun and the unknown glimmers of stars we may never see. Its size is not something to fear, but something to rest in, a reminder that there is space enough for everything, including you. As you drift towards sleep, imagine floating above the galaxy, looking down at its full shape, a spiral 1,000,000 light-years wide, turns slowly in the dark. Its arms curve like brushstrokes of light. Its center glows with crowded stars. Its halo stretches invisibly beyond. Somewhere within it, on a small arm, lies Earth, a tiny point in a vast design. You are part of that design, held within its embrace, safe in its immensity. Let that thought ease your breathing, soften your body, and calm your mind. For the size of the Milky Way is not just a measure of distance, it is a measure of wonder, of possibility, of belonging. And tonight, it can be a measure of peace. When you look at the Milky Way from Earth, you see only a ribbon of light stretched across the sky. But if you could rise above the galaxy far enough to see its full spiral shape, you would find our solar system in a very quiet corner. We do not live in the crowded center, where stars whirl tightly around the core. Nor do we live on the grand spiral arms, where starbirth blazes in brilliant clusters. Instead, our home rests in a small side branch, a gentle lane called the Orion Spur. The Orion Spur is a minor arm of the Milky Way, tucked between two larger neighbors, the Sagittarius arm and the Perseus arm. These arms are vast highways of stars, gas, and dust. By comparison, the Orion Spur is more like a side road, less crowded, less bright, but steady and calm. It stretches for thousands of light years, curving quietly around the galaxy's center, carrying our sun along in its orbit. In many ways, our place is fortunate. The galactic center is beautiful but dangerous. There, radiation is intense. Supernovae erupt more often, and stars crowd so closely that their orbits twist in chaotic patterns. Life as we know it might struggle to survive in such conditions. The outer edges of the galaxy, by contrast, are quiet but sparse, with fewer heavy elements to form planets like Earth. But here in the Orion Spur, conditions are balanced. There are enough heavy elements to create rocky worlds, but not so much chaos that those worlds are constantly threatened. This region is sometimes called the Galactic Habitable Zone. Like the Goldilocks zone around a star, where a planet is not too hot and not too cold for liquid water, the Milky Way itself has regions where conditions are just right. Too close to the center and radiation may strip atmospheres. Too far away and the lack of heavy elements may make Earth-like planets rare. But here, about halfway between the center and the edge, we find a balance. It is in this quiet suburb of the galaxy that Earth orbits sheltered yet rich. Our Sun lies about 2,600 light-years from the galactic center, circling in a slow orbit that takes roughly 225 million years to complete. That means, in all of Earth's history, the solar system has completed only about 20 revolutions around the galaxy. When dinosaurs first appeared, we were in a different part of the spiral entirely. Civilizations rise and fall in the blink of a galactic eye, while the sun continues its patient journey through the Orion Spur. From our perspective, we see stars scattered across the sky in every direction. But most of those stars belong to the same local region, the spur itself. They are our neighbors in the galactic suburb, shining steadily as companions on the same path. Some are bright giants visible from far away. Others are faint dwarfs that require telescopes to detect. Together they form the familiar constellations we trace at night, patterns that have guided travelers and inspired stories for thousands of years. The Orion Spur also contains some of the most famous celestial landmarks in our sky. The Orion Nebula, for instance, is a vast star nursery, glowing with newborn suns, visible even with small telescopes. The Pleiades, a cluster of bright young stars, sparkle like diamonds nearby. Even our closest stellar neighbor, Proxima Centauri, lies within this spur. When you look at the night sky, most of the stars you see belong to this same quiet lane. It is our cosmic neighborhood, both ordinary and extraordinary. There is comfort in knowing that our place is not in the extremes. We are not too near danger, nor too far from richness. We orbit in a region where life could arise, where planets could form, where stability could endure for billions of years. It may be chance, or it may be the natural unfolding of the galaxy's design. Either way, it is home a calm corner in a galaxy filled with both chaos and wonder. As you rest tonight, imagine drifting upward far beyond Earth, beyond the solar system until you can see the Milky Way spread out beneath you. Picture its spiral arms glowing like brushstrokes of light. See the bright center, the sweeping arcs, the faint halo. Then find the Orion spur, a small branch winding between the larger arms. Within it lies the Sun glowing steadily, carrying Earth along on its long orbit. That is your place, not at the center, not at the edge, but in a quiet lane where life has had time to grow. And in that thought, there is peace. Just as Earth is nestled in the Sun's habitable zone, so too is our solar system nestled in a habitable zone of the galaxy. We are doubly sheltered, doubly blessed. The Orion spur may not be grand, but it is gentle. And sometimes gentleness is exactly what life needs. So let your breathing slow, your body soften, and your mind rest in the knowledge of where you are, a small blue world circling an ordinary star in a quiet arm of a vast galaxy. Our place may be small, but it is precious. And tonight, it is enough to let that place hold you safe and steady as you drift into sleep. When you gaze at the Milky Way on a clear night, you may notice that its glowing band is not perfectly smooth. Dark streaks cut across it like rivers of shadow winding through the stars. To the eye, these look like absences, as if parts of the galaxy have been erased. But these rivers of darkness are not empty. They are made of cosmic dust, vast clouds of tiny particles drifting between the stars, shaping both what we see and what we cannot. Cosmic dust is not the same as the dust you find in your home. These grains are smaller than smoke made of carbon silicates and frozen ices. Each one is microscopic, but together spread across thousands of light years, they weave curtains that hide the galaxy's light. To us, they appear as dark lanes, blotting out stars behind them. But if you could look with infrared eyes, you would see those same regions glowing faintly, warmed by the stars they conceal. The dust is not just a veil, it is also a cradle. Within these dark lanes, gas and dust gather to form the raw material of stars. As gravity pulls the particles together, clouds collapse, heating slowly, until nuclear fusion begins. Every star you see, including the Sun, was once hidden inside a dusty cloud. Without dust, there would be no stars, no planets, and no life. What looks like shadow is in truth the beginning of light. Astronomers study these rivers of dust with special telescopes. Infrared instruments pierce through the obscuring clouds, revealing the hidden nurseries within. Radio waves trace the cold hydrogen gas that clings to dust grains. Even ultraviolet and X-ray observatories contribute, showing how energetic stars shape and stir the dusty regions around them. Piece by piece, we learn that these shadows are full of activity creation, unfolding in silence. Some of the most famous sights in the night sky are sculpted by dust. The Horsehead Nebula, with its distinctive dark silhouette, is a cloud of dust backlit by glowing gas. The Eagle Nebula's pillars of creation are towering columns of dust and gas where stars are forming. Even the hazy glow of the Milky Way itself is shaped by dust which scatters and filters the starlight, softening its brilliance into the delicate shimmer we see. Dust also carries secrets of chemistry. Inside these grains lie molecules that may be the seeds of life. Carbon chains, simple sugars, even alcohols have been detected in interstellar dust. When stars die and scatter material back into space, they enrich the dust with new elements. Later, the dust gathers again into clouds, forming new stars and planets. In this way, dust is part of a great cycle, born in stars, scattered in death, gathered again into new beginnings. Imagine drifting through one of these dark rivers. At first you see fewer stars, the sky dimming as the dust thickens. Around you float tiny grains, invisible individually, but together creating a veil. It feels quiet, hushed, like being inside a cathedral of shadow. And yet, hidden behind the darkness, new suns are stirring, their warmth slowly building. What seems like silence is alive with potential. Even our own solar system was shaped by dust. Long ago, the sun was surrounded by a swirling disk of gas and particles. From that dust, Earth was formed, along with the other planets and moons. The iron in your blood, the oxygen in your lungs, the calcium in your bones, all were once part of cosmic dust, drifting through a dark cloud before being woven into a living world. To breathe tonight is to breathe the memory of dust transformed by time into life. There is a lesson in these rivers of shadow. We often think of darkness as emptiness, as the absence of meaning. But in the galaxy, darkness is often the place where creation hides. The rivers of dust remind us that what we cannot see may still be full of promise. The shadows in the Milky Way are not endings, but beginnings waiting to shine. So as you rest tonight, let the image of these dark rivers soothe you. Picture them, winding through the galaxy, gentle and quiet, carrying within them the seeds of stars and worlds. Picture yourself drifting alongside them, surrounded not by emptiness, but by the promise of light yet to come. The universe hides its treasures in shadow, and you too are part of that mystery. Sleep knowing that even in darkness there is creation, even in silence there is motion, and even in the quietest rivers of dust the future of stars is already stirring. When you look at the night sky, some stars appear alone, each shining with its own light. But many stars are not solitary. They are born together in families, bound by gravity, into groups called star clusters. These clusters glitter like jewels scattered across the Milky Way, each one a gathering of suns sharing a common origin. To see them through a telescope is to darkness, but with constant starlight, a jewel-box sky that never dims. Clusters remind us that the galaxy is not uniform. It is textured, varied, alive, with groupings and gatherings. Some places are dense, filled with families of stars. Others are quiet, with only a few scattered suns. Together they form a mosaic, as if the galaxy were a crown studded with gems, each cluster a sparkling point in its design. As you rest tonight, think of those jewels hanging silently above the galactic plane. Think of the Pleiades, shining in winter skies, a family of sisters still together after millions of years. Think of the ancient globular clusters glowing patiently at the edge of the Milky Way, older than the spiral arms themselves. Let their endurance and beauty soothe you, reminders that in a universe of change, some bonds still endure. You too are part of such a cluster, the human family born together on one small planet, sharing a common origin. Just as stars carry the fingerprints of their birth, you carry the elements of Earth within you. And just as clusters shine like jewels, your life adds its own light to the galaxy's crown. Sleep now, in the comfort of that thought. The Milky Way sparkles with clusters of stars, and among them you belong, a quiet jewel in a cosmic necklace, shining softly in the dark. Glimpse ornaments strung across the galaxy, glowing softly in the dark. There are two main kinds of clusters. The first are open clusters, loose groups of a few dozen to a few thousand stars. They are young, often only a few million years old, and many still shine with the bright blue light of youth. The Pleiades, also called the Seven Sisters, is one such cluster, easily visible to the naked eye as a small shimmer of stars. When you look at it, you are seeing a family of suns born from the same cloud of gas, still traveling together across space. Open clusters are fragile. Over time, the pull of the Milky Way stretches them apart. Stars drift away, scattering into the larger disk. Eventually, the cluster dissolves, leaving only faint traces of its former unity. Our own sun may have been born in such a group billions of years ago. Its siblings are now scattered across the galaxy, lost among billions of others. Somewhere out there, those brothers and sisters of the sun still shine, but they are invisible to us, hidden by distance and time. The second type are globular clusters, far older and more enduring. These are dense spherical gatherings of hundreds of thousands of stars, packed so tightly that they resemble glittering spheres of light. Globular clusters orbit the Milky Way in the halo far above and below the disk. Some are more than 12 billion years old, nearly as ancient as the universe itself. To look at one is to see a time capsule, a glowing fossil from the earliest days of the galaxy. Through a telescope, globular clusters look like swarms of fireflies, their centers blazing with density. In these crowded neighborhoods, stars lie so close that they may influence one another's paths, exchanging energy like dancers brushing shoulders on a busy floor. Yet despite their closeness, the clusters endure stable for billions of years. They are jewels not only in beauty, but in persistence, glowing with the quiet strength of age. Astronomers study clusters to learn about the history of the Milky Way. Because all the stars in a cluster form at roughly the same time, they carry similar chemical fingerprints. By analyzing their light, scientists can determine their ages and compositions, piecing together how the galaxy has grown. Some clusters reveal traces of ancient mergers clues that they once belonged to smaller galaxies before being captured by the Milky Way. Each cluster is not just a jewel, but a page in the story of galactic evolution. There is also poetry in the way clusters reflect life itself. Families are born together, grow, and eventually scatter. Some endure bound closely for generations. Others drift apart, their members carried away by circumstance. Yet, the bond of origin remains, even if distance hides it. Our sun, wandering now among strangers, still carries within it the memory of a shared birth. Perhaps one day, astronomers will identify its siblings by matching their chemical fingerprints. To know them would be to rediscover long-lost family among the stars. Imagine yourself floating among a cluster. Around you, stars glow on every side, closer than in our part of the galaxy. The sky is crowded, not with thousands of stars, but with millions, each shining brightly in all directions. Shadows would never fall, for the heavens themselves would be ablaze. Living on a planet in such a cluster would mean nights filled not with. A galaxy is not a static place. It is alive with cycles, patterns that repeat over billions of years. Stars are born, they live their luminous lives, and then they die, giving their material back to the galaxy. This endless rhythm is like the seasons of Earth, but stretched across cosmic time. The Milky Way, too, has its seasons, long eras of birth and death, creation and renewal, written in light and shadow. In some regions, starbirth flourishes. Giant clouds of hydrogen collapse under gravity, igniting new suns. These regions glow with radiant blues and silvers, lit by clusters of hot young stars. They are springtime in the galaxy, filled with energy and youth. The Orion Nebula is one such place, a vast nursery where thousands of new stars are forming even now. When we look at it, we glimpse the galaxy's spring, a season of beginnings. But spring does not last forever. Stars that are massive burn, quickly shining brilliantly for only a few million years before exhausting their fuel. When their time comes, they explode in supernovae, scattering heavy elements into space. These explosions are dramatic, yet they are also creative. They enrich the interstellar medium with carbon, oxygen, iron, and other elements that will become part of future stars and planets. In this way, death feeds life. A star's end is also autumn, scattering its harvest into the fields of the galaxy. Not all stars die with explosions. Smaller stars like our Sun end more gently. After billions of years of quiet burning, they expand into red giants, shedding their outer layers in luminous shells. These shells drift outward, forming planetary nebulae, glowing bubbles that light the sky for a brief time. What remains at the center is a white dwarf, a small dense ember, wreathed to night. Let this rhythm guide you. Inhale with the galaxy's spring the birth of stars. Exhale with its winter the quiet fading of old suns. You are part of this cycle, carried by it, shaped by it. Your own life brief, in comparison, is still woven into the same eternal pattern. And so, as you drift into sleep, know that the Milky Way's seasons continue around you, birth, death, and renewal, all in balance. Just as stars are born from dust and return to it, you too are part of this cycle. In the galaxy's endless seasons, nothing is truly lost. Everything transforms. Everything continues. That cools slowly over trillions of years. This is winter. In the galaxy, quiet, cold, and enduring. Over billions of years, the Milky Way has experienced waves of star formation, like seasons on a cosmic scale. Long ago in its youth, the galaxy blazed with star birth, forming suns at a furious pace. That was its spring and summer, full of vigor and light. Today, the pace has slowed. Star formation still happens, but more quietly, more gently, as if the Milky Way has entered middle age. It glows with steady maturity, not the fiery rush of youth. Even so, the cycle continues. Gas flows into the galaxy from intergalactic space, replenishing the raw material for new stars. Supernovae stir the interstellar medium, compressing clouds and triggering fresh bursts of creation. Stellar winds from hot stars carve bubbles that later collapse into new nurseries. Everywhere, beginnings and endings intertwine. Just as Earth has days of planting and days of harvest, so the galaxy has eras of birth and eras of rest. Astronomers see this cycle written in the chemical makeup of stars. Young stars contain heavier elements, forged in the generations before them. Older stars are poorer in metals, reminders of a simpler time when the universe was new. By studying these differences, scientists can read the seasons of the galaxy's past, tracing when bursts of star formation occurred, when mergers enriched the disk, and when calm periods allowed stars to live in peace. Each star is a calendar, its composition, a date in the long history of cosmic time. There is comfort in knowing that death is not the end in this cycle. Every atom in your body, the oxygen you breathe, the calcium in your bones, the iron in your blood, was forged in stars that once lived and died. You are made of stardust carried through countless seasons of galactic renewal. What seems like loss is in truth transformation. What ends in one form begins in another, endlessly recycled across time. Imagine drifting through the Milky Way, watching its seasons unfold. You see regions glowing with the light of newborn suns, brilliant and blue. You see the husks of dying stars, their shells expanding like lanterns in the dark. You see clusters of white dwarfs, faint but steady glowing embers of an ancient fire. All of it is part of one great rhythm, a heartbeat measured in billions of years. As you be, every star has a life, and some end their lives with quiet fading. But the most massive stars choose a different path. When they die, they do so with brilliance and violence, exploding in cataclysmic supernovae that light up the galaxy. These explosions are brief compared to cosmic time, but their echoes linger. The Milky Way still carries the marks of ancient blasts, reminders of stars that once lived, shone, and ended in fire. A supernova is one of the most powerful events in the universe. In a single moment, a star can outshine an entire galaxy of hundreds of billions of suns. For days or weeks, it burns with unimaginable brightness before slowly fading into memory. But the light is not the only gift. The explosion scatters heavy elements, iron, gold, calcium, oxygen, into the interstellar medium. Without supernovae, planets like Earth could not exist, and life itself would not have the elements it needs to grow. The echoes of ancient explosions still ripple through our galaxy. Astronomers find them as supernova remnants, vast clouds of gas and dust expanding outward glowing with energy from shock waves. The Crab Nebula, for instance, is the remnant of a supernova recorded by Chinese astronomers in 1054. Even now, nearly 1,000 years later, its filaments stretch outward, like luminous threads carrying the memory of that explosion. Across the Milky Way, other remnants are scattered faint shells, ghostly arcs, glowing bubbles, each one a monument to a star's fiery end. Some explosions were so powerful that their effects may have reached Earth. Scientists studying isotopes in ancient ocean sediments have found traces of iron 60, a rare isotope produced in supernovae. These traces suggest that millions of years ago nearby stars exploded, scattering material that eventually settled on our planet. You carry in your very body atoms that were once blasted outward by stars long gone. The echoes of those explosions are not just in the sky, they are in you. Supernovae also leave behind strange objects, neutron stars, and black holes. Neutron stars are dense collapsed cores, no larger than a city but heavier than the Sunday. Some spin rapidly beaming light, like cosmic lighthouses becoming pulsars. Others simply sit in silence, relics of destruction. Black holes formed when the collapse is total continue the story in shadow, pulling nearby stars or gas into their gravity. These remnants are the echoes made solid reminders that even endings give rise to new forms. The galaxy itself has been shaped by these ancient blasts. Shock waves from supernovae ripple through the interstellar medium, compressing clouds and triggering the birth of new stars. In this way, explosions do not just end lives, they begin them. The next generation of suns often arises in the wake of destruction, like wildflowers sprouting after a fire. Creation and destruction are not opposites in the Milky Way. They are partners, each making the other possible. Imagine drifting through the galaxy and hearing these echoes not as sound, but as faint ripples of light. You pass through the delicate tendrils of a nebula, still glowing after thousands of years. You watch a pulsar flash steadily, its beams sweeping like a heartbeat across space. You see the scars of old explosions stitched into the fabric of the Milky Way, silent yet enduring. They are reminders that even the brightest lights must end, and that endings can be beautiful. Astronomers sometimes describe the galaxy as a memory keeper. In its clusters, its dust, its streams of stars, and its nebulae, the past is preserved. The echoes of ancient explosions are part of this memory. They tell us about the lives of massive stars, the history of chemical enrichment, and the cycles of creation. They remind us that the galaxy is not just a place of stillness, but of events of moments so powerful that their influence lasts for millions of years. And yet even in their violence, supernovae serve a quiet purpose. They make the galaxy fertile. They scatter the elements of life. They stir clouds into new patterns. Without them there would be no Earth, no oceans, no living beings to wonder at the stars. What seems like destruction is also gift. The echoes of ancient explosions are not warnings, but blessings spread across time. As you lie here tonight, imagine those echoes softly surrounding you. Picture faint clouds glowing in colors too delicate for the eye. Picture tiny atoms drifting down through the galaxy, remnants of stars, long gone, eventually becoming part of worlds, part of bodies, part of you. You are in every sense the echo of an ancient explosion. And just as those echoes endure, so does the quiet rhythm of life continuing onward. Rest in that knowledge. The galaxy remembers, and you are part of its memory. In the silence of sleep, you too carry the whispers of stars that lived and died billions of years ago. Their echoes shine in you, and tonight they can lull you gently into dreams. When you look up at the night sky, the stars may seem fixed as if they are painted on a still canvas, but this is only an illusion born of distance and time. In truth, the Milky Way is alive with motion. Every star, every cloud of gas, every cluster and stream is moving carried along in a vast rotation that has continued for billions of years. The galaxy is not frozen. It is a living dance, a slow, graceful turning across the dark. Our Sun is part of this motion. It circles the galactic center at more than 828,000 kilometers per hour, faster than any spacecraft, faster than our imagination can hold. Yet even at such speed, it takes about 225 million years to complete just one orbit. Astronomers call this a galactic year. In all of Earth's history, the Sun has circled the galaxy only about 20 times. When the first dinosaurs appeared, our solar system was in a completely different part of the spiral. The stars we now see as familiar constellations will not always be our neighbors. They too are moving, changing the patterns of the sky across the ages. This motion is not chaotic. Stars closer to the center orbit more quickly, while those farther out move more slowly. Together, they create the spiral-structured density waves, like traffic patterns that flow through the disk. The galaxy is not a rigid wheel, but a river of stars flowing in currents and eddies. Imagine drifting in that river, stars gliding past you, each following its own path, yet bound by the same invisible pull. The halo also moves. Ancient stars orbit in tilted and elongated paths far above and below the galactic plane. Globular clusters circle in wide arcs like lanterns, swinging slowly around a central fire. Even the dwarf galaxies, our neighbors, weave their own orbits tugged by the Milky Way's gravity. The entire system is a ballet, intricate and vast, its dancers too numerous to count, but all keeping time with the same gravitational music. And the Milky Way itself is not still. Our galaxy is traveling through space, pulled by the gravity of other galaxies in our local group. Together with Andromeda and dozens of dwarfs, we drift toward a common center of mass. Beyond that, the entire local group is moving toward an even larger gathering of galaxies known as the Virgo cluster. On scales so large, they defy imagination. Even galaxies are swept along in rivers of motion. Astronomers measure these motions with precision, mapping the speeds and directions of stars. From these maps, they reconstruct the Milky Way's past, tracing mergers, collisions, and flows of matter. The Gaia mission, for example, has revealed streams of stars stretched across the sky, remnants of galaxies long ago consumed. These streams are rivers of memory still moving, still carrying the echoes of encounters billions of years old. There is something soothing in realizing that nothing is truly still. Even as you lie here tonight, the Earth is spinning, the Moon is circling, the Sun is orbiting, and the galaxy itself is gliding through space. You do not feel it, yet it continues steady and sure. Motion is the natural state of the cosmos. Stillness is an illusion, a momentary perspective. Think of this motion as a kind of cosmic heartbeat, slow, steady, and enduring. Stars rise and set, galaxies meet and merge, but the rhythm continues. It has been pulsing since the Milky Way first took shape, and it will continue long after we are gone. You are part of that heartbeat, carried along without effort, a passenger in the galaxy's great journey. Imagine yourself drifting above the Milky Way, watching it turn. The spiral arms rotate slowly, light, bending into graceful arcs. Clouds of dust ripple clusters, orbit streams unwind. From that vantage point, the galaxy looks like a great wheel of stars, but softer, more fluid, like a current swirling in. When you stand under the night sky, it is easy to believe you are seeing everything. The Milky Way arches across the heavens, a glowing band of starlight that seems to stretch from one horizon to the other. Yet what we see is only the innermost whisper of the galaxy. The Milky Way extends far beyond the reach of our eyes, its edges stretching into darkness. These edges are places we may never fully touch, but they are as much a part of our home as the stars above. The visible disk of the Milky Way is about 1,000,000 light-years across, but the galaxy does not end there. Beyond the spiral arms, the faint halo spreads outward for hundreds of thousands of light-years more. In that halo drift, ancient stars, faint globular clusters, and the traces of galaxies long ago consumed. These outskirts are diffuse like the thinning edge of a cloud. To us, they are invisible, yet their presence is undeniable, felt in the pull of gravity, traced in the slow arcs of stars. For astronomers, mapping the galaxy's edges is a challenge. From our position inside the disk dust, clouds obscure distant regions and starlight blurs together. The farther out we look, the harder it becomes to separate one star from another. We cannot step outside to take a photograph of the whole. Instead, we build models, use surveys like Gaia, and watch the faint streams of light that trace the boundaries. Still, the true size of the Milky Way remains uncertain, a mystery that lingers at its edge. Some stars live at these farthest reaches. They orbit slowly, taking billions of years to complete a single loop. Many were likely captured from smaller galaxies, now wandering in the outskirts like exiles from another home. To imagine standing on a planet near such a star is to imagine a sky nearly empty. Few stars would brighten the night. The galaxy itself would appear as a faint, distant glow, not a river across the heavens, but a cloud on the horizon. Life there, if it existed, would look inward and see the Milky Way not as home, but as a distant beacon. The edges are also shaped by dark matter. Though invisible, it outweighs all the visible stars and gas many times over, forming a vast halo that holds the galaxy together. This halo stretches farther than we can measure, perhaps 1,000,000 light-years across. It is as if the Milky Way were cradled in unseen hands, its stars and arms held in place by an invisible embrace. The edges we cannot see may be the most important parts of all, for without them the galaxy would fly apart. There is a kind of poetry in knowing that our home has limits we cannot fully grasp. We live in the middle of a structure whose boundaries are hazy, uncertain, unreachable, and yet this uncertainty does not diminish its beauty. It enhances it, reminding us that mystery is part of belonging. Just as the horizon hides what lies beyond the galaxy's edges, remind us that there will always be more to discover. Even the local group, the family of galaxies that includes the Milky Way, Andromeda, and dozens of dwarfs, blends at its edges into larger structures. Gravity does not draw neat borders. Instead, galaxies and clusters merge into one another, their boundaries soft, their influence spreading. The Milky Way's edges are not walls. They are doorways into the larger universe, passages, into the cosmic web of matter that stretches everywhere. As you imagine these edges tonight, think of them not as limits, but as invitations. Picture the faint halo expanding into darkness, dotted with ancient clusters, glowing like lanterns. Picture lonely stars, wandering at the rim, their orbits slow and patient. Picture the invisible dark matter halo, cradling it all, a quiet force, holding everything together. The edges are far away, but they are part of the same home that shelters you now. And so, as you rest, let this thought comfort you. You live in a galaxy whose boundaries are vast, mysterious, and unreachable, but you are always within them. No matter how far the edges stretch, you belong to the Milky Way. Its arms, its center, its halo, and its unseen outskirts all hold you. You do not need to reach the edges to be part of them. You are already included, already carried in their embrace. Sleep now, with the image of a galaxy too large to see, too wide, to know completely, yet gentle enough to hold a single planet, a single person, a single breath. The edges may be beyond reach, but the comfort of belonging is close, resting with you tonight. Long before telescopes, before modern science, before we knew about black holes and dark matter, people looked up at the Milky Way and wondered. they did not see a galaxy of billions of stars. They saw a glowing path across the night sky, a mystery waiting for stories. And so, across cultures and centuries, the Milky Way became a canvas for human imagination. Each people painted it with their own myths, their own meanings, their own quiet explanations for the river of light above. In ancient Greece, the name Milky Way was born. The story told that the goddess Hera spilled her milk across the heavens, forming a luminous band. In Latin, it became Via Lactea, the Milky Road, and the name has lingered ever since. But the Greeks were not alone in weaving tales. To the Romans, it was a divine pathway. To others, it was a scar left by the motions of the gods. The same ribbon of stars, but many stories. In China, the Milky Way was called the Silver River. It was said to separate two lovers, the cowherd and the weaver girl, who could meet only once a year when magpies formed a bridge across the sky. This legend gave rise to the Chi-Chi festival, a celebration of love and reunion. Even now, when people in China look up at the Milky Way, they see not just stars, but a story of longing and togetherness written in light. In parts of Africa, the Milky Way was seen as the ashes of campfires scattered across the sky by ancient travelers. Among the San people of southern Africa, it was called the backbone of night, a guiding line that stretched from horizon to horizon. In the vast open landscapes, this glowing band became both compass and companion, linking earth to sky. The indigenous peoples of the Americas had their own visions. To the Navajo, the Milky Way was a trail of sacred pollen, a path placed in the sky to guide the spirits. The Inca called it Mayu, the celestial river, mirroring the great rivers on earth. They believed that dark patches within the Milky Way were cosmic animals, a llama, a fox, a serpent, whose stories shaped the rhythm of life on earth. The sky was not separate from their world, but a reflection of it. In northern Europe, the Vikings looked to the Milky Way as a road across the heavens, a path for warriors traveling to Valhalla. In Finland, it was called the Pathway of Birds, thought to guide migrating flocks across the seasons. In many cultures, the Milky Way became a road, a path for gods, for spirits, for animals, or for the dead, always a way across the dark. Even in modern times, the stories continue. Some see the Milky Way as a reminder of connection, that we on one small planet are part of something shared across the globe. No matter where you stand, no matter what language you speak, the same river of light arches overhead. It binds cultures together, even as each culture gives it its own story. Science has given us new ways to understand the Milky Way. We know now it is a barred spiral galaxy, 1,000,000 light-years wide, home to hundreds of billions of stars. We know its arms, its halo, its black hole at the center. Yet even with all this knowledge, the stories remain. Because science tells us what the Milky Way is, but stories remind us what it means. And meaning is just as important as measurement. Think of it this way: when you look up at the Milky Way, you are seeing the same sky your ancestors saw thousands of years ago. They told stories to explain it. You know facts to describe it. Both are true in their own way. The galaxy is both a river of hydrogen and helium, and a silver bridge between lovers. It is both a spiral of stars and the backbone of night. It is science, and it is story. There is comfort in this continuity. The Milky Way connects not only stars, but people. It links cultures across continents, times, and beliefs. Each story is like a star itself, small, singular, but together they form a constellation of human imagination, and you are part of that constellation. When you wonder about the galaxy, you join a line of dreamers stretching back to the dawn of humanity. As you rest tonight, imagine yourself walking along that cosmic road. Perhaps it is the silver river glowing under your feet. Perhaps it is a trail of pollen or the ashes of ancient fires. Perhaps it is simply a spiral of stars, vast and real. Whatever story you choose, it is yours to carry. And in carrying it, you are connected to ancestors, to strangers, to every person who has ever looked up in wonder. The galaxy holds its facts, but it also holds its stories. Let both guide you. Let the science calm your curiosity, and the myths cradle your heart. For in the Milky Way, there is room for both truth and meaning, both measurement and magic. And tonight, under its light, there is room for rest. When you look at the Milky Way stretching across the night sky, it feels vast beyond measure. Hundreds of billions of stars, countless worlds, immense arms of light spiraling for more than 100,000 light years. It is our home, our galaxy, our cradle in the universe. But as extraordinary as the Milky Way is, it is not unique. It is only one among countless others. The universe holds perhaps 2 trillion galaxies, each one a home of its own. The Milky Way is immense, yes, but it is also part of a greater cosmic sea. Imagine drifting outward, far beyond the halo of our galaxy. At first, the Milky Way shrinks behind you, becoming a glowing whirl of light, delicate and intricate. From that vantage point, you can see it fully. For the first time, a barred spiral, its arms curling outward, its center glowing softly, its halo faint and wide. It looks complete majestic, like a single island in a dark ocean. But as you drift farther, you begin to notice others. To the side, another spiral glimmers. Beyond it, an elliptical galaxy glows faintly, then more and more, until the sky is crowded with islands of light. Our galaxy is not alone. It never was. The closest of these great neighbors is Andromeda, a spiral larger than ours, already on a slow approach to merge with the Milky Way billions of years from now. Together, they belong to the local group, a family of more than 50 galaxies bound by gravity. Some are small, faint dwarfs, barely visible their stars, few but enduring. Others are larger, glowing more brightly, contributing their own light to the cluster. From a distance, the local group itself is only a dot in a far greater web, a thread in the vast fabric of the cosmos. Beyond the local group lies the Virgo cluster, a collection of thousands of galaxies. Beyond that superclusters, filaments and walls, structures so vast they stretch for hundreds of millions of light years. The Milky Way is only a single bead on this grand cosmic necklace, one bright swirl among uncountable others. To us it feels like everything. To the universe, it is one home among many. And yet knowing this does not make it less special. In fact, it makes it more so. For in this sea of galaxies, you exist here on a small planet, circling a modest star within this particular spiral. The Milky Way is your address in the cosmos. You are part of its story, part of its arms and streams, its past collisions and future mergers. Of all the galaxies that could have cradled you, it is this one that did. That makes it precious. Think of the diversity of homes across the universe. Some galaxies are giant ellipticals, swollen with ancient stars glowing red with age. Some are irregular, twisted and chaotic, shaped by collisions. Some blaze with furious starbursts, while others are quiet, fading slowly into darkness. Each galaxy carries its own story, its own rhythm of birth and death, its own chorus of light. The Milky Way is just one verse in that cosmic song, but it is the verse you belong to. Astronomers often say that the universe is homogeneous on the largest scales. That means, if you zoom out far enough, galaxies are scattered evenly like grains of sand on a beach. But when you zoom in, each grain is unique. Each galaxy holds its own wonders, its own mysteries. Our Milky Way is one among countless, but it is not interchangeable. Its shape, its stars, its black hole at the center, its quiet Orion spur, all of it makes this galaxy distinct a place unlike any other. There is humility in realizing that our home is small compared to the whole, but also beauty. We do not need to be the only galaxy to be meaningful. We do not need to be the largest or the brightest. We are part of something greater, and in that belonging we find peace. The Milky Way is vast enough to cradle us, yet small enough to be only one thread in the tapestry. Both truths can exist together. So tonight, as you close your eyes, imagine the Milky Way, glowing in the darkness, one spiral among many. Picture it nestled among its neighbors, part of clusters, part of filaments, part of the endless web of galaxies that stretches across the cosmos. And then picture yourself lying here on Earth, safe and small, yet woven into that same fabric. You are part of a home, among countless homes, a light within a sea of lights. Let that thought carry you gently into rest. The galaxy is vast, the universe vaster still, but you belong here. Among the countless homes of the cosmos, this one is yours. And tonight, it is enough to know that you are held within it, cradled by stars, carried by gravity, embraced by light.